In this video, I want to talk about why exercise or any kind of movement is extremely beneficial for your health. Exercise has a dramatic impact on our mood molecules. When we're doing stuff every day, and it doesn't have to be going to the gym and lifting weights and that kind of thing. It can be any kind of movement, whether it's yoga or dancing or walking or, doing some body weight exercises. There's a whole variety of things that you can do that will have very important health benefits. So we make all kinds of molecules like serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, acetylcholine, different molecules that impact our mood. And when we exercise, we increase those molecules that increase our mood. Research shows that if you have two groups, one taking antidepressants and one exercising, the exercise group does just as well, if not better, than the group taking antidepressants. So we have a huge impact on our mood when we're moving around. And I'll explain a little bit more about that, about why. Also, when we have movement or exercise, we increase our metabolic rate. So that impacts our cells all the way down to the cellular level, where we have mitochondria that produce ATP or energy. So the mitochondria in our cells take food molecules like glucose and fatty acids and ketones, sometimes amino acids, and uses those, breaks them down to produce energy. When we are doing things all the time that require the mitochondria to make energy, what we do is we actually increase the production of more mitochondria. So our cells contain 1,000 or more mitochondrial organelles. When we exercise, we make more. And the benefit to this is that our mitochondria also plays a really important role in longevity. So when we exercise and we make more mitochondria, we will increase our cells' lifespan and our own lifespan. So it will decrease inflammatory molecules, it increases the production of antioxidants, it helps our cells get rid of bad metabolites and toxic molecules, and it helps to, when we do all of that, it helps to decrease the probability that we end up with mutations in our DNA. So DNA mutations are what can lead to things like cancer. When we regulate our metabolic rate, it also impacts our body weight. And when we have a good metabolism, when we're using our body all the time, increasing mitochondria, increasing mitochondrial function, then it also helps us to regulate our body weight. So our cells get adapted to burning sugar and fat for fuel, and then we're more likely to be able to regulate our appetite, and then we can have a more stable body weight. So people that eat all kinds of crap, for example, can actually get away with eating more crap if they also exercise. So people that have physical jobs, can tend to eat more calories and eat more sugar and higher fat foods with less effects. People that stop doing exercise or movement or playing sports or whatever tend to gain weight because they're not moving as much. And it's not just about burning calories, it's about all of the other effects on our cells, like the mitochondria. Okay, exercise also impacts our hormone production. So it impacts the mood molecules that I just talked about, but it also impacts like our thyroid hormones that regulate metabolism. It affects our cortisol production. So cortisol is really important in the whole stress response. When we have too much cortisol, it inhibits our immune regulation functions, and then we can have more inflammation. Cortisol production is highly connected with weight gain, especially belly fat, inflammation, immune function, our mood, and chronic disease. So when we exercise, it is really one of the best ways to help decrease stress hormones, especially cortisol, when we're producing cortisol because of long-term chronic kinds of stress. Exercise is really the best way to help decrease those hormones so that we can regulate our inflammation, our mood molecules, our metabolism, and we can deal with a lot more stress if we're incorporating movement and exercise. When we exercise, it affects our brain not just with mood molecules, but with cognitive function. People that have regular physical activity will have better cognition, less brain fog, less brain fatigue. You'll have a better memory, and you'll be able to problem solve and be creative more so than people that don't have regular exercise. One of the reasons why exercise helps our brain function is because it increases those mood molecules. It increases molecules that help us think, like our acetylcholine is important for thinking in our brain. Same with glutamate. But it also increases blood flow. So when we exercise, we increase our blood pressure and we increase our blood flow, and we actually can double our cardiac output when we're doing some sort of physical activity. So when you have more blood flow, then what's happening is you're bringing more nutrients and more oxygen to all of the tissues in your body, including your brain. So that's why your brain will work better. Also, think about your skin. As we get older, our skin can start to have signs of aging. And when we exercise and we increase blood flow, we're going to bring nutrients to the skin, especially if you're sweating while you're exercising. So then the more blood flow that goes to your skin, the more nutrients, the more oxygen, and then your skin cells can be healthier. Also, along the line of increasing our blood flow, this helps the whole body to detoxify. So when we increase our blood flow, more blood will flow through the kidneys, through the liver, through the respiratory system, and that will help the cells to be able to regenerate. Our cells can't regenerate without nutrients. So when we have more blood flow, then we're going to have more nutrients, and then those tissues will be able to function better. So really, exercise, any kind of movement that increases your blood flow, especially if you can get a little bit out of breath, then that is going to improve the health of all of the tissues in your whole body. When we look at stress, so the effects of stress, it affects the brain, it decreases your brain function, brain fog, brain fatigue, decreased memory, increased dementia and Alzheimer's, right? So when we have stress and inflammation and poor blood sugar regulation, then it is going to affect our brain, it'll affect our cardiovascular system, it will affect our digestive system. If our digestive system can't absorb nutrients and properly assimilate molecules that we're taking in with our food, then we have less nutrients in the blood that's going to our cells. Everything is always connected. Now, when we look at the types of exercise, there are so many different things that we can do. And I want to point out that it is really important to choose something that you enjoy. If you pick something that you hate, let's suppose you hate going to the gym and you hate lifting weights, but you get yourself a gym membership and you go to the gym and you lift weights and you hate it the whole time, guess what's going to happen? You're going to make more cortisol, and you're going to increase stress hormones, and you're going to increase your inflammation, and you're going to decrease your mood molecules. And it's not going to even be beneficial. So it's really important to find activities that you enjoy. So when we look at the spectrum of possibilities, we can go from very low intensity but longer duration all the way up to higher intensity for a short duration. So on the lower intensity end, we have things like moving meditation, yoga, walking, okay? Any kind of slower movements that are not really using a lot of strength or power or speed. Okay, so those kinds of things. Pilates actually remarkably uses a lot of muscle strength though. So Pilates is really great. Any kind of stretching, any kind of just easy movement. And then we can move into things like practical movements where you're just puttering around the house and you're dusting or doing dishes or sweeping the floor. Those are all still movements. Mopping, by the way, is a really great ab workout. And practical movements can be up to very high intensity. If you're doing yard work, if you're raking leaves, if you're gardening, shoveling dirt, pushing a wheelbarrow around, chopping wood. Okay, there's all kinds of things that you can just do around the house that are productive things that are physically active, that's making you use your muscles and your cardiovascular system. So then there's exercises like cardiovascular or cardio. So these are the kinds of exercises that are not as much strength as much as endurance. So this will involve things like hiking, jogging, swimming, dancing, and it can also include playing soccer or basketball or any kind of sport, skipping, kayaking, lots of different ways that you can do cardiovascular. So you know that you're working your cardiovascular system when you get out of breath. And again, if you hate jogging, don't jog. If you prefer to ride a bike or to put on some music and dance, those are the activities that you want to aim for. You want to do things that you're going to find enjoyable, that you're going to be able to do on a regular basis. And then we have the options of playing sports or games. So even something like playing frisbee or playing with your dog or your kids, climbing, playing soccer or baseball or badminton or tennis or going skiing. There's all kinds of things that you can do that are physical activities that are also social that can increase your motivation level. And then we move into the resistance training kinds of exercise. And this usually involves either lifting weights or doing body weight movements. So this includes things like doing a bench press or push-ups, squats. You could use weight to do the squats, or you could just use your body weight. Lunges, pull-ups. So if you have a hanging bar in your house in a doorway somewhere, you can do pull-ups. You can use little hand weights like dumbbells, or even just little weights that you can put on a bar or that you can also just hold, and you can do presses for your shoulders, you can do bicep curls, you can do side raises, right? So there's lots of little things that you can do with small weights. And then we have the extreme end where we have high intensity interval training, or HIIT. You can do a very high intensity, super beneficial workout in a very short period of time. So for example, you could work out for 5 or 7 minutes and do 30-second sprints, either running or on a bicycle. You could, if you have a stationary bicycle or a rowing machine, or if you're kayaking, and you just go all out for 30 seconds, take a minute rest, and do that 5 or 7 times, and that's an amazing workout. So there's a whole spectrum of variety of things that you can do, and it depends on your goals. If you are looking for endurance, then you're going to be leaning more towards the cardiovascular kinds of exercises. If you are looking for strength, then you're going to need to do resistance training. That is usually going to involve body weight exercises or exercises with weights. When we are looking at a strength training kind of routine, I'll give you a very basic starter routine, and then you can just add to it and modify it. The other thing that I want to point out, though, is if you want to build muscle mass, so you want your muscles to get bigger, that is slightly different than building for strength. Both will involve resistance training, but when you want mass, you need to increase your volume, which means you're going to be doing more repetitions and more sets compared to the strength training. With strength training, you're going to be using heavier weight for less reps and less sets. So an average sort of basic way that you can split up your workout. So first of all, if you're going to look at resistance training, you could train the whole body, hit each muscle group 1 or 2 times, and do that twice a week. Or you could split your body groups into upper body and lower body and do that 2 or 3 times a week, or 2 or 4 times a week. Or you could split it up into a 3-day routine where you have push movements, pull movements, and then usually legs. If you want to get stronger, you need the weight to be at a point where 8 to 10 repetitions is quite hard and you couldn't do much more. And you would do that a couple of times. So you could do 3 sets a few times a week, okay? If we're just going to focus on biceps, if that was the muscle group we're going to use as an example. Whereas if you wanted your biceps to get bigger, then you would use a weight so that about 20 to 25 repetitions. So less weight, but more repetitions. In both cases, whether it's the 8th rep of strength training or the 25th rep of mass training, that last repetition is hard. Okay, so hard that you probably couldn't do too many more. Okay, so that's called going to failure. When you go to failure, that's when the muscles are actually the most stimulated to grow. When you grow muscle tissue, you're not actually making new muscle cells, you're making more muscle fibers in the muscle cells that you have. So when we stimulate the muscles, actually during the exercise part, we're breaking the muscles down a little bit. It is a type of stress. And then during the recovery phase, when you're not exercising that muscle, that is when the muscle is repairing itself, building new muscle fibers. So as much as exercise is important, it's also really, really important to have recovery. So you don't want to exercise the same muscle group at a high intensity every single day, because then you will only be wearing the muscles down and you won't have time to repair. So the recovery is just as important as the exercise. And the last thing that I want to just touch on is, if exercise is so important, why don't we do it all the time? What are some major reasons why you might not be exercising or doing any kind of physical activity as much as you should? So some of the hurdles that I have found with people that I have worked with over the years include the following. And you figure out where your hurdle might be, and then you work on that, and then eventually, hopefully, you'll be able to incorporate physical exercise on a regular basis. So, number one reason is low energy level. When you feel fatigued and tired, if you have chronic fatigue, if you have fibromyalgia, if you have chronic inflammation and you feel exhausted, you have infections all the time, you always have a cold or a flu, then you're not going to have the energy to be able to exercise. And in the case of something like adrenal fatigue, for example, where you're just exhausted all the time, it's actually not a good idea to force yourself to exercise. It is better to fix that situation first, work on your energy, work on your nutrients, your inflammatory situation. Once you get that under control and your energy level starts to increase, then you can start incorporating exercise. And again, do it very slowly and very gradually. If you want to use exercise for regulating your body weight, for example, if you start exercising a lot right away and burning a lot of calories, your body is just going to make you want to eat more, and you may even end up gaining weight in the very beginning of starting a workout program. So the goal is to be slow and gradual. Okay, let your body adapt gradually, and then as you get stronger and your cardiovascular fitness increases, then you can gradually add more and your brain won't freak out and make you eat tons of food or crave carbs or something. Okay, so energy level. The next thing is poor nutrition. So if you are not getting enough protein, if you're not getting enough micronutrients, so plant foods, colorful plant foods that contain phytochemicals and polyphenols and all of those good antioxidant molecules that help our cells function. Okay, so diet is really important. Then the next factor is motivation. How do we get going? How do we get motivated? One of the things that I find is the most beneficial is when you do physical activity with someone else, even if it's a dog, right? Because, once your dog gets used to going for a walk every day, then they start staring at you, when it's time to go, and then you're going to be more motivated. So working out with someone or having some sort of a routine with another person, even if you just communicate like, okay, today I'm going to go do this, and you talk to each other, then it makes you more accountable and it makes you have a little bit more motivation. A little bit of competition can be fun, but not so much that it ends up being stressful. Hormone imbalances. So when we don't have a properly functioning thyroid or adrenal glands or a pituitary that's making all of the molecules involved in growth and metabolism and our stress response, those hormone balances, sex hormones, right? They're all involved in helping us to have the energy and motivation to exercise. So if you have a low functioning thyroid, adrenal fatigue, you're not producing enough good mood molecules, then you're going to want to focus on getting your hormone balance regulated, and then you will have the energy and motivation to exercise. And then the last thing is people often tell me they don't have time. Okay, so even if you start off with 5 minutes a day, okay, 5 minutes, just do something consistently for 5 minutes. And then once that becomes a totally normal habit, then you can build on it. It is better to be consistent and do something every day than to get super motivated and join a gym and go twice and then never go again. Okay, so when you can create a habit, find the time of day that works best for you, whether it's you get up and you have a coffee and then you do your exercise, or if you prefer doing something in the middle of the afternoon before dinner, figure out a time of day in your schedule where you can fit in at least 5 minutes to begin with. A couple of counter push-ups, a couple of squats, go for a walk. Once that becomes more of a habit, then you can add to it.